Hello, I'm Tom Dozier, and welcome to this webinar, Relaxation and Counterconditioning Therapy for Misophonia. This is for Android device because I'm going to be showing the use of the Misophonia Muscle Relaxation Training app. Oh, I need to switch my webcam so that you will be seeing me and not just my, my phone. There we go. Okay, everyone. Hello, I'm Tom Dozier, and I'm a behaviorist. I've been researching misophonia now for over 8 years, and I'm looking forward to presenting this. So this treatment, relaxation and counterconditioning therapy, for misophonia includes education on misophonia reflexes. We'll do that. Relaxation training, which is a skill development program. We'll do that. Teach you how to do that. And then it involves counter-conditioning, which is experiencing triggers that you would normally experience in your real life, but in a reduced or a different way, so that you actually will bring those reflexes down. And sometimes this includes happy activities and weak triggers. We'll talk about that. And then avoiding prolonged misophonia distress. So anytime you're in a triggered situation where you're having repeated triggers, your misophonia gets progressively worse. So we don't want to do that. We want to be making it get better. And then this treatment involves ongoing support from your therapist and knowing what the right thing to do, when, and helping you remember how to interact with these triggers in this way. So with that said, let's go on into the program here. And there we go. So here's our lizard brain. Blame your lizard brain for your misophonia. Your lizard brain, your brain has 4 parts. 3 of them here are labeled. We have the cerebrum, the thinking brain up top. We have the emotional brain in the system called the limbic system, which is not a system. It's a number of independent structures that light up when you're happy or sad or mad or frustrated. And you have your autonomic nervous system. Sometimes it's called your reptilian brain. It's your brain stem. And I like to call it your lizard brain. A chameleon lizard crawls up on a rock and turns brown, and it crawls over here on a leaf and turns green. It has no idea what brown or green is. It is just an involuntary reflex response. And that lizard brain of yours is really great for these involuntary responses. That lizard brain keeps you warm in the winter by making you shiver, keeps you cool in the summer by making you sweat, adjusts the light coming into your pupils, adjusts your heart rate, keeps you breathing all the time, does all of your food processing. So that lizard brain is really great, and it works on what we call a stimulus response relationship. So the light shines in my eyes, that's a stimulus, the pupil constricts. I go running outside, I'm getting hot, that's the stimulus. The response is I sweat. So these are automatic, involuntary things that our brain does for us. There are a number of these reflexes that are inborn. That's called unconditioned. It's 100% based on the genetics. And the ones I've just been suggesting, right? Sweating, startle reflex, breathing, digestion, all of these are reflexes that are genetically hardwired. Your lizard brain has the ability to learn new reactions, new reflexes. And these are called, technically they're called learned or conditioned. I like to call them acquired through experience. So a baby will develop a reflex in the first few days to their mother's voice, because the way the lizard brain works is anytime it notices stimulus and an action, stimulus, action, stimulus, oh, I see a pattern, stimulus, pattern, stimulus, boom, automatically, stimulus, boom, automatically, stimulus, boom, automatically. And so in the first few days, moms are doing some things that calm a baby down, that cause a reaction. They're rocking the baby, they're cuddling the baby, they're touching the baby. They're going, oh, and they're talking. That's the stimulus. Oh, look at those little cheeks of yours. You're so cute. Your little cheeks and your little fingers and your arms and your belly and your legs. And you're going, ah, this is wonderful. And you're hearing that la, 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 la. And by the end of the first or second or third day, depending on how much of this occurred, a baby could start the little fussing, and mom says, it's okay, mommy's here. And that lizard brain goes, ah, and relaxes. And that is a learned reflex. That is the heart of what drives misophonia. Misophonia is not caused by a defective brain. It is not caused by a chemical imbalance or misfiring for some reason. It is caused by these natural ability of your lizard brain to learn these reflexes. Now, food reflexes is still the same part of the brain, but it's done on about a 30-minute interval, where these physical reflexes are done on a 2 to 3 second interval. Pasta reflex. If you eat spaghetti and you have a big plate of pasta, your brain sees, oh, lots of glucose is going up in the bloodstream, lots of adrenaline, not adrenaline, it's insulin. Lots of insulin, more insulin, and it gets it down. And after a while, it learns that pattern, so that when the plate of pasta is sitting in front of you, that your lizard brain says, oh, there's that pasta, there's that stimulus in front of, it's my pasta, and it starts producing insulin, and your blood sugar drops. And then it comes up, and it smooths out. So it smooths out our reaction to the environment. And these learned reflexes are a complex stimulus. It's not just about the sound. For example, if you go out to eat and you've been eating a lot of pasta and your lizard brain knows that reflex, and the person you're with gets a big plate of spaghetti and you get a hamburger, your lizard brain knows it's not your spaghetti, so it doesn't start producing insulin. If you hear a lion roar at the start of the MGM movie, you kind of go, cool. But if you're in a tent out in the forest, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you hear, ah, it's like totally different reaction, right? But it's the same auditory stimulus. So misophonia is a learned reflex reaction. And you hear a lot about it happening in childhood, and yes, this is the age of onset. It most often does happen in childhood, but it happens into the teenage years and on out here into the adult years. So in this study we ran, we still had people out in the 49 to 53 range that were developing misophonia for the first time. It can happen at any age. Okay, so the emotional reflex is what is the most noticeable about misophonia, and that's been documented and researched by Kumar and Schroeder and their companions, their co-workers, co-researchers. And the key to this is that there's this little thing behind your eyebrow called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which is actually in the cerebrum. And there's this thing called the anterior insula. And the anterior insula gets all external and internal stimulation. So it gets the touch, taste, smell, sight, hearing, body temperature, muscle tension, oxygen level, hunger pains, joint pains. All that stuff comes up to this anterior insula, which is in the cerebrum. And the anterior insula relays out to the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, what do I do with this? Now, I don't have misophonia. So for me, I hear a big chomp onto a chip or something like that, and my VMPFC goes, this is not important, stay calm, move along. And it actually inhibits the response. But for a person who has that as a trigger, they hear the crunch and VMPFC, what do I do with this? And it goes, oh, rage. And then it goes back to, still in the cerebrum now, back to the anterior insula, who fires down into the hippocampus and the amygdala, and it's like, rage. And that's the way, that's the learned reflex of misophonia. So here graphically it shows that for trigger sounds, people with misophonia had a much higher activity level in this emotion generator, and people without misophonia actually had a depressed response, a don't react response. Okay, so again, I'm going to have these slides available, so I'm not going to be reading everything on them. I'll be sending them out to everyone who's registered for the class. But the key here is that misophonia emotions are an acquired emotional reflex. They develop through experience, and these, as a reflex, they are involuntary. It's an involuntary action. So it's not your choice to get angry or not angry when you experience a trigger, right? It's a reflex, you're going to get angry. Now, there's also what I call the initial physical reflex of misophonia. And this is a well-kept secret that's out in the public, but because the emotions that you experience with your misophonia are so extreme, the physical reflex is greatly dwarfed. But we have seen this early on. So I've got a little note here that says show the Katie video. And so to show the Katie video, I have to change my webcam over to what we would call the fake webcam. And I'm going to turn up the sound here, and you're going to see this little girl's, 8-year-old girl, response to hearing a sniff. So here we go. Okay. See that jerk? Wow, what an incredible jerk for that. Okay, and I have to get it turned off. Go back to my webcam. Stop it from playing here. Okay, so now I'm back. It's me again. All right, I have another computer over there just to check what you're seeing. So that is the initial physical reflex of misophonia, and I may refer to it as the IPR, initial physical reflex, or the physical reflex, but it is a critical part of misophonia. And screen sharing is now paused, it says. Okay, let's get rid of this down. Now we're back active again. Good. So the initial physical reflex is documented in 2 research studies that I led. One in 2017 were published, and one just got published this year. So the one in 2017, what we did is we had 26 people experience triggers, very, very weak triggers, like a little sound. And we had 100% of the people, 2 auditory, 1 visual, 100% of the people had a physical response to at least one of their triggers that they reported. And over here, you'll see, here's the kind of things that the people reported. Shoulders, arms and hands, neck, chest, back, abdomen, jaws, thighs, general tensing, a sexual response. And this is an immediate sexual response in everyone I've ever worked with who had a sexual response as their initial physical reflex knew it. They knew it, and it was disgusting. A flash of warmth, curling of the toes, nausea, breath, holding their breath. I'll talk a little bit about if you have a breath-related reflex, there's some things that you should do specific. Now, in the next study, we actually hooked people up to electromyography, which is an electrical measurement of muscles. And in this one, you see we had a 100 millisecond inaudible timing pulse, and then the trigger started here, which didn't show up on the scale. And then 200 milliseconds later, 2/10 of a second, boom, the calf muscles fired. And here's another one where we saw both the deltoids firing and the calf muscles, but in this one, the paraspinals, which fired for certain triggers, but not for this one. So again, we have this about 2/10 of a second delay between the start of a known trigger starting and the muscle firing. That's a very interesting time, because if I'm popping a balloon behind you, you're going to jump in 60 to 80 milliseconds. But with this with a conditioned or a learned muscle reflex, it gives the brain time to say, oh, I hear that. Is that what it is? And it goes ping, 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 120 milliseconds of bouncing around in the brain. It goes, yes, that's the situation. Boom. And now the reflex occurs. Now, this physical flinch is an input to your brain, because it's coming up as a physical interoceptive signal to the anterior insula, and that causes the trigger to kick off. So what is your initial physical reflex? So we have a chat box. I'm going to be looking over to it every now and then. So if you know your initial physical reflex, and this is something you will experience in the first 1 second, half second, okay? But one of the ways to find it is to make a very small trigger. Just a little sniff or a little, and being just barely audible. For example, I have this little piece of celery. I will not bite it, but I'm going to show you a little tooth mark here right across this corner. I don't know how to get it there. Anyway, tooth mark across the corner where it's just a little sound, and that's enough to barely trigger a person. And she reported that she felt it in the back of her arms. Right, that's the tricep muscle. If you tighten up your muscle, you'll find your tricep and your bicep. So again, this is good to know. You can use the Misophonia Reflex Finder app, which is a free app available on iPhone and Android, to help you record a trigger or take one that's with it, and then make it very short and very soft and work your way up. Generally, probably 80% of the people can identify their physical reflex right away. The treatment may still work if you don't know your initial physical reflex, but it's better if you do. So back to this response chain. Once we learn how to relax these muscles, then the goal is to get rid of this physical reflex. And as we get rid of this physical reflex, as it comes down, the emotions come down, the stress response, the outward behaviors come down. And it can just come down and down and down and down and down. Okay? So, how does your lizard brain learn for non-misophonia people? Because these reflexes happen all over the place. So, we call this a stimulus response pairing. It's a form of Pavlovian conditioning where you're saying basically that the ringing of the bell, your brain noticed that, and it noticed the salivation glands activating. Bell, salivation glands, bell, salivation, put it together. Bell, salivation, and that becomes a conditioned response. So pageants and surgeons and pagers. So before iPhones, we had pagers, and when somebody needed to get you, it would buzz and go brrr, and beep, 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 beep. And so Dr. Lipoff was a trauma center surgeon. Now, a trauma center is going to get the worst things coming into it. His pager would go off, brrr, and by the way, this was his first job as a doctor, and he kind of went, oh no, what am I going to have to deal with this time? Dread response. And about a month into it, pager goes off, brrr. Oh, what am I going to have to deal with? And those shoulders just came up every time. I said, Gene, how long did that shoulder reflex persist? He says, until I got a different job and got rid of my pager. Every time the pager went off, my shoulders came up. This also happens to detectives, because detectives, if somebody gets shot and killed in the middle of the night, detective's pager goes off. Oh, going to see something ugly. Reflexes develop. I've seen it happen with multiple professionals with stressful phone calls. And one of my friend was a cancer patient, and she talked about how much she hated her chemotherapy pump. Pump goes off, this is going to kill me. Pump goes off, this is going to kill me. And when her pump would go off, she'd feel it. Her muscles in the lower back would clench up on her. Again, this is called Pavlovian or classical conditioning. So your lizard brain can also unlearn these conditions. Your lizard brain is the most neurotic and insecure part of your brain, right? It's always second guessing itself. So if this is the muscle, this is the stimulus, your lizard brain hears that crunch, and goes, did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? And you go, and it's tightened a little bit. Lizard brain goes, oh, good, I did the right thing. Even if you relax now, lizard brain has looked away because it only watches for 2 or 3 seconds. If it's crunch, I hate that, lizard brain goes, oh my goodness, look, I did this, I'm seeing that. Next time I will hit that muscle harder. And that's one of the reasons that misophonia gets worse and worse over time, is because the lizard brain is pulsing the muscle and then seeing you tighten it because of the emotions. But if you can relax before the trigger, then it's crunch, boom. Lizard brain goes, oh, no. I did this, I'm seeing that. Something's going wrong. Let's watch it again. Crunch, boom. Okay, next time I will do it a little bit less, and a little bit less, and a little bit less. And it adjusts the response. So if you can just start relaxing instead of tensing around these triggers, and that's not something that you can do easily, that's why we have to learn this skill, then your lizard brain will adjust. And in my case examples that people have talked with me about, looks like it's 20 to 30 minutes before that lizard brain really will back off, if you're in a situation where you can keep those muscles relaxed. So progressive muscle relaxation is a relaxation technique developed by Edmund Jacobson. He wrote the book, You Must Relax. And this was developed for anxiety and high blood pressure, because when you're tense comes from tense muscles. That's a description of your muscles. That's where that word I feel tense comes from. If you'll just relax, then you'll break that tension. So there's multiple ways and benefits of deep relaxation. You can have deep physical relaxation through yoga or guided meditation or mindfulness meditation or progressive muscle relaxation. But these other methods, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, do not help you develop the skill, the neuron connections to relax on demand. So daily deep relaxation gives you many benefits. One of the ones I'll just highlight here is reduction in generalized anxiety. And I guess another good one is prevents accumulation of stress, which you've got plenty of stress if you have misophonia. And it goes through some other things. Now, the benefits from PMR, again, it improves your health and well-being. Whoops, I got a little spot here. Relaxing before the triggers reduces the severity of how strong it hits you. It can reduce your anger by relaxing after the trigger, but only when you will relax your muscles and hold that relaxation before the trigger and through the trigger will it change your lizard brain, which reduces your future misophonia severity. And only progressive muscle relaxation causes you to develop the skill of relaxing your muscles on demand. And I'm seeing a frozen me for a moment here. Not sure why or what, but I have an intrusive little app coming up here. So I'm going to kick it back over with my preferences to the webcam. Yeah, I'm back again. Okay, I don't know what kicked that over, but that little webcam thing wants to keep popping up. Might get us again. So as I was saying, is that well, I mentioned that relax before and through the trigger to change it, but you have to learn how to relax your muscles on demand. Now, if you have trouble going to sleep, if you need improved sleep, then progressive muscle relaxation at bedtime, in bed, lights out, can induce sleep for most people who have trouble going to sleep. and can also help people sleep better. So I have produced an app, which is now available on Android, coming soon on iPhone, called the Misophonia Muscle Relaxation Training App. And with this app, you can sign in and have a user ID. Supposedly that will help you be able to have your saved programs. I'm not sure how well that works. I mean, I know you can save programs if you have a user ID. I'm not sure exactly what happens if you sign in without it. But we have the muscle relaxation training portion. When you click on that, it opens up a page that says beginner 1, beginner 2, expert 1, expert 2. And so the way progressive muscle relaxation works is you're going to tense a muscle, hold that muscle tense, focus on that muscle for about 7 or 8 seconds, and then relax and notice the difference. And notice how different and soft and heavy and, compared to when it was tense and tight. Now, when you do that, by the way, you can relax your fists on demand easily because we use them so much. Pretty good with our jaw also on demand. But the rest of your muscles we're pretty lousy with. So right now, if this is the neurons for the muscles, and I say, tighten my fist, it goes, okay, fists are tight. Relax my fist, okay, fists are relaxed. Tighten my toes, toes are tight. Relax my toes, relax my toes, no connection. So when you say, tighten the toes, focus on the toes, notice how the toes feel, release the toes, then focus on how the toes feel when they're released, you're getting neuron growth from that thought, relax the toes, over to the muscles that go, relax. In about a week, you will have grown enough dendrite fibers in your brain between the muscles and the thought of releasing or relaxing them that you will start to be able to do it on demand. Now, if you play a sport, how do you get better at that sport? Practice. If you play a musical instrument, how do you get better? Practice. This is not learning how to do muscle relaxation. This is an experiential process that's growing dendrite fibers from the thought of relax over to the muscles that control the relaxing. In the app, I have 2 different sets of muscles based on what I've done with recorded audios that were that had some variation that I've been using successfully for treatment. And so there's the session number 1 and session number 2, similar but uses different muscles. So my recommendation is that you do 2 to 3 sessions a day, basically 1 hour a day. So if you started off did the basic 1, the basic 2, that's 25 minutes each. Maybe that's your first day. Then the basic exercises have more of a description of how it's supposed to work, what you're supposed to focus on. It's got instruction in it. So do the basic 1 and the basic 2, and then you will know how to do it. Go to expert 1, expert 2, expert 1, expert 2, and you just keep alternating back and forth between those 2. If you are triggered by the audio in any way, stop. You cannot learn to relax your muscles while you're being triggered, and you don't want to pick up a new trigger anyway. So if you kept sticking with it and trying, you'd pick up a new trigger. Again, the basic recommendation is an hour a day, and which could be like 1, 2, 1, and the next day 2, 1, 2. And if you can do extra work on your initial physical reflex, that is also recommended. So for example, if you noticed that there's a little muscle here behind your shoulder that pulls your shoulder back, then when the audio says, clench your right fist, you clench your right fist, clench your left fist, clench your left fist, clench both fists, maybe you put your shoulders back, right? Or you do some extra muscles, different muscles, swap them out. or you can get the advanced version of the app, which allows you to set that. Okay, so if you do the beginner 1, beginner 2, hit the play button or hit edit button. Edit button will take you in and allow you to set, with the basic app, you have one voice and a fixed tension and a relaxation time. And if it's a beginner session, you have the beginner start and end. You can then select which background music you want, which background sounds you want. You can save that so that next time it will pop up with your choice, and then you hit the start button. And then you just do it, right? You want to lay down or be fully supported in a recliner, focus on it, and do it. And I'm asking that you split this up as best you can throughout the day. So you don't have to do it all, do not do it all at once, because it helps you feel better, helps you reduce your anxiety and stress level. The more you break it up throughout the day, the better. So there is a help page. Misophonia and muscle relaxation takes you to this page on the internet. If you go to that page on the internet, you can watch the video about PMR. You can listen to the samples of the different voices, the music, and the background sounds. And you can get there also from the little menu button up here in the corner. The advanced options give you a few benefits. You can select and deselect muscles. So especially if you have a particular area around your neck, your shoulders, some area, you can have more of extra muscle so that you can define which one to use. There are 9 more voices, including one that is de-essed of Remy, the first one. Some of the muscles, most of those are high quality computer generated voices, so there's no lip popping in there. You can set your duration of the tension and the relaxation, so you can speed it up a little bit if you want to. You can set beginning and ending options. For example, short for the beginning says, let's begin. Take a few few deep breaths, tighten your fist. So it cuts it down, gets rid of all of the extra instruction. And then there's an ending option of sleep or long, which is designed for a little extra relaxation at the end, or a guided mindfulness of your breath that will help you go to sleep. We have more planned features, and we welcome suggestions. Also, any bugs you find, tell me. I would appreciate it. Please be kind on your rating of it right now. We are working to get all the bugs out, but it's fully functional. It does crash every now and then. You can make it crash if you go into a session and you start playing with the volume here, up, down on the volume, then it got locked in again here. Okay, so this webcam thing is getting ready to I don't know who it thinks it knew. Something popped in for that. I apologize. Okay, so I'm back again. Anyway, if you adjust the volume up and down, it will you can crash it by adjusting the volume up, down, and we're working on that right now. Okay, so let's see what else we have to go here. So here's a list of all the possible muscles you would have to choose from in the advanced option, and there's only one muscle that I've encountered with people that I work with that's not in here, and that's pointing your head upward. That's a muscle right up at the top of the back. And so you could just, in terms of the shoulders and neck, you would just pick extra 1 or extra 2, and you could just put that muscle in. All right. Sequential relaxation. Now, this is an application of the PMR after you've done at least 14 PMR sessions. So that's basically after a week, or a little more, or a little less. Then what you can start doing, you can do it with or without the app, and you basically focus on a muscle, relax it, focus on another muscle, relax it. Spend about 5 to 7 seconds on each one. So relax your right hand, relax your left hand, relax your right bicep and tricep, you know, and you just step through the body that way. The app is a little bit long with the standard programs because it'll tell you relax your right hand, relax your left hand, relax both hands, because it uses the same program as you did for the PMR. We need to add something better for that, but you could, you know, no one has ever had a sequential relaxation guided audio because nobody's ever done that before. Okay, then the third exercise, this is the second application exercise. You did the PMR, sequential relaxation, 3 times or so on the sequential relaxation. And then ragdoll is simply floppy, like a little cloth doll. Ready, relax. And just let all the tension flow out of your body. As you breathe in, say relax. As you breathe out, say more relaxed. And it's maybe 15 seconds. Really quick. Do that 5 times a day when there are no triggers, and the app works very well for that. Okay, I want you to avoid misophonia distress. Misophonia, prolonged misophonia triggers where you experience this distress will cause your misophonia to become more severe. The physical reflex gets stronger, the emotional reflex gets stronger, faster neurons. So one of the things you can do is you can add noise to reduce your misophonia severity. Hopefully, all of you are already doing that. A lot of people use music. Music is not as good as noise for reducing the severity of a trigger. Music has loud and soft and then silence between the songs, so that a good noise app is constant. The one I always recommend is White Noise by TM Soft, and using open ear earbuds. Let's see, one like that, you know, or the Apple, you know, the Apple kind of earbud, you know, or the AirPods would be great, so that you can still hear other sounds, but you can bring the noise level up, because when it's silent, triggers or all sounds seem louder, it's more noticeable, and the fidelity or clarity is perfect. Like your lizard brain goes, oh, that's that trigger, you know, and it boom, explodes. So adding the noise, so if this is your misophonia severity, as you bring the noise level up, the severity goes down until you're no longer hearing it, you're not triggered at all. But the place to work is to be in that area where you're hearing a trigger a little bit, but it's not causing you distress. And that's where you want to, that gives you the opportunity to relax in that situation. You may need to use noise canceling headphones and a noise app. You can use a box fan or a noise machine in the room. Move away if you need to. It is okay to leave rather than endure misophonia distress. That's very important to know, that the worst thing you can do is try to sit there and gut it out, because you are probably a person who can do hard things. And if you can like try to take that trigger straight on, and you probably have at times, or needed to because you didn't think you could leave. But when you take it straight on, your lizard brain gets stronger and the emotional reflexes get stronger. So you can never take out misophonia by going head to head with it. You have to be strategic. You have to get the triggers down. You have to relax and try to stay relaxed. So counter conditioning live triggers. Use the noise to bring it down, right? Brings the severity of the trigger down by bringing up the noise. And relax when you're going into a situation where there may be triggers, right? Relax immediately after a trigger. But most importantly is relax before the trigger, because one trigger indicates another's going to come. Trigger, oh, relax, hold the relaxation, and then you experience that trigger, and go ahead and breathe slowly with the out breath being longer than your in breath, and focus on relaxing your initial physical reflex. Just relaxing can bring down weak triggers. So here's an example of relaxing. This is my daughter, Melissa. Katie, who you saw flinch the foot. Melissa had misophonia, got her triggers wiped out, all gotten rid of, and then she developed a new trigger to kids swinging their legs. And so she's in church teaching the 3-year-olds, the Sunbeam class, and she goes, they're swinging their legs. Oh my goodness, they're swinging their legs. And she goes, wait a minute, they're not doing anything wrong. What's going on here? And she goes, I feel the clenching in my trapezius muscles. And the more I watch them, the bigger the knot comes in my trapezius muscles. She said, so Dad, I just started relaxing and it went away. Her sister developed misophonia a couple of years ago to her husband eating cookies and chips after the boys went to bed. So here she's a 30-something developing misophonia. And she said, Dad, I got to talk to you. We go see him every 2 months. And so she knew about misophonia from me, and she told me what was happening. She said, I'm just getting furious when Wes is eating these cookies and chips after the boys have gone to bed, and I can't control it. So I said, okay, Amy, you're tensing up somewhere. You got to relax. When we went back 2 months later on our next visit, at one point she was in the kitchen and I walked by herself, and I walked in and she said, oh, Dad, it was my shoulders and it's gone. Right? And I checked with her again and she says, no, normal situation, I'm fine. She says, if I'm really tense and stressed, I might start noticing his eating, and then I just relax and it's gone. Here is my wife, Pam, in a field of tulips. Pam likes chickens. She came in a few months back, maybe it was last year it was actually, and she has these pet chickens outside of her window. And there's a bar in front of her window that they can hop up on, and she'll open the window and feed them worms. You know, these are her little pets. But she says, they're driving me crazy. She says, Buffy starts clucking so loud, and Susie jumps in, and then Roxy jumps in, and they're making such a squawk. I can't stand it. You've got to do something about it. So I had worked with her a little bit before and knew that she would hold her breath for certain triggers. So I said, you're probably holding your breath. Now your lizard brain is making you hold your breath. So what I need you to do is scuba breathing. In scuba, you always breathe. You breathe in, you breathe out. You breathe in, and you breathe out. And since we knew that she was worried that the neighbors would be upset, she repeated to herself the mantra, the neighbors like the chickens, as she was breathing. The neighbors like the chickens. The neighbors like the chickens, as she's breathing in and out. And the trigger just went away. Okay, counterconditioning with recorded triggers can work also, especially if it's too scary or you can't control the live triggers. And with this, you want to do a fun activity. You want to go for a walk. You want to relax like you're relaxing to, some pan flute, massage therapy music. You want to play video games. You want to have some fun activity and hear little snippets of the trigger. And when they're little, then if it's set up right, the triggers can die out. And so that's counter conditioning with fun activities. Again, this is not your basic exposure therapy, because this is a situation where giving your lizard brain the experience where it goes, trigger, boom, oh, it's relaxing, trigger, boom, oh, it's relaxing. Okay, I'll back off. And as the lizard brain backs off, then you can raise the volume or the duration of the trigger and bring up to a lizard brain reaction, and then they'll die out. So here is some overview of cases of people that we provided this treatment to, that I provided this treatment to. And you can't see these really in detail. I'll show them to you more in detail, but these are high on the left, low on the right. The red line is a measure of the impact of misophonia in your life, and the black with green dots is the Misophonia Assessment Questionnaire, which was a survey that Marcia Johnson developed. This person was disabled. They hadn't worked in a couple of years. They spent 95% of their time in isolation or with headphones on. And she had a jaw reflex, which was actually very easy to work with. Here's another and another. You know, the amount of benefits you get, how long you work with it, make a difference. But we're trying to get these triggers coming down and down and down and down. Here's an interesting person. Had a breath-related reflex, was doing very good to start with, canceled the 4th session. I thought, oh, she's doing so great. She doesn't, you know, well, what it was is she got laid off due to COVID-19. So 15 weeks later, she's basically flat. This is where the assistance, right, continued support comes in. We put her on the free program, and boom, 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 down she came. Okay, here's another young lady who was a slow responder, had some hiccups along the way, but we kept working at it. And she did pottery while she would hear recordings of triggers, and the pottery feels so good in your hands, you know, and then her triggers died off. There's another person who was, you know, down and, you know, worked a long time to get that on down. This person went way too long between those 2 visits, and their misophonia started back on them. Anyway, so these are, you know, these are just individuals that I've worked with through this relaxation and counterconditioning therapy, which includes education on the misophonia reflexes, again, the relaxation training, which is skill development, in which you have the misophonia muscle relaxation training app that you can use. Counterconditioning of real life, which is really relaxing around the triggers. So I'll tell you a story about this. The lady that I said was disabled, she went out 2 days after we met, and she was pulling weeds at a neighbor's, and that little thing's gonna pop back up again. And so, and I'm gonna have to kill it here. So I'm gonna kill that way. And you know, the toughest things happen. You never plan on all these things happening, but they sure so seem to have the ability to pop up and happen. So there we go. And there, I'm going to close that off again. All right, so back to my story. So she went outside, she was pulling weeds. Her and her mother were pulling weeds at an elderly neighbor's garden. And school lets out, the kids come out, they're yelling and screaming and carrying on, and that's a trigger for her. She was like, ah! And she goes like to a 9 distress level instantly. She said, but I really wanted to stay there. I really wanted to do this service for this woman. So I started trying to relax. And as soon as I really started trying to relax, again, she had a jaw reflex, which is pretty good she could control. She said, I started feeling my reflex coming down. And down and down and down and down and down. She said after 5 minutes, I was maybe at a 5 to a 10. I mean, I was maybe at a 5. After 5 minutes, I was down to a distress level of 5. After 15 minutes, I was at a 1 or a 2. And after 20 minutes, I was unaware of the kids screaming. Now, this sort of thing has other reported situations like this. Examples, if the voice just changed, I just changed microphones to my preferred microphone. So this other example was a person who I just heard from on the internet. She had a job which kept her standing up all week, and so she would have a foot massage as her treat at the end of the week. So she went in at the end of the week to the massage place, and there would be a greeter, and the greeter was a sniffer. She said, and you know, she could usually get past the sniffer pretty quick with, you know, 1 or 2 triggers past them and get to the back of the place and be okay. She said, but one week, Mr. Sniffer was assigned to give her the foot massage. And it's like, oh no, what do I do? New guy, nice guy. I don't want to make a scene. I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to embarrass myself. So what am I going to do? She said, I'll just suffer. She said, and so I just thought, okay, I can endure this. She said, but by the end of the massage, which is going to be, 25 minutes probably, she said, I was no longer being triggered by his sniffing. So that foot massage was a very nice relaxation, which was causing her just to melt And wherever her initial physical reflex was, it just died out in 25 minutes. So that's the treatment. Okay, remember, counterconditioning, sometimes with triggers with happy activities. Avoid the prolonged distress, because prolonged misophonia distress causes your physical reflex to get worse, your emotional reflex to get worse, and any new or associated stimulus in the environment can become a new trigger. You don't need any new triggers. So avoid the prolonged distress, and then have the ongoing support that you need. Get whatever you need, get your ongoing support. Misophonia Institute will train your therapist. We have training for therapists at how to provide this treatment and other aspects of really deeply understanding misophonia at a reasonable price. So I guess one last story I'll give you, and then I'll answer some questions, is that on a camp out last summer, not a couple of months ago, I was with the young men at our church, and they go, "Oh, Brother Dozier, what do you do?" And I'm, "Well, I'm a behavior analyst, like, oh, what does that mean?" And we talked about what I do and a little bit about misophonia. And one of the guys says, "Oh, I've got that." Actually, of the 12 guys that we had there, I think it was about 12, we had 2 that had misophonia. And one of them said, "Oh, yeah, my sister's singing, and it's just horrible. It drives me crazy." And we talked about relaxing, and that's all we did, just try to relax. And I talked to him 6 months later in the hallway, maybe 8 months later, and I asked about his reaction to his sister singing, and he said, "Oh, man, it's so much better now." So it's really just relaxing around these things rather than doing what comes naturally, which is tensing up. So thank you very much. Again, I'm Tom Dozier. I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. And if you have anything on the app, please send me an email. We'd love to get the details. Send me your phone model and what's happening to it. And now I have time for questions. So let's see what questions we have over here. Okay, will this be recorded? Yes, we are recording. I successfully had my sticky note on my computer and got that started. I will send everyone an email with the link to it. I'll put it up on YouTube. How much generalization is there to the MMRT? Would someone need to go through the training for each trigger stimulus? Okay, so this is a very important clarification. There is no triggers associated with misophonia muscle relaxation training. Misophonia muscle relaxation training app is simply an app that allows you to do progressive muscle relaxation with choices of the audio so that we can get past, for those of you who get triggered by certain voices, set your muscles to focus where it's most important for you to learn to relax those muscles, and it enables you to develop the skill of going, relax my toes, toes relax. Relax my calves, calves relax. Relax my biceps relax, okay? So that misophonia muscle relaxation training app has no connection to triggers. You learn to relax, and then you relax around your triggers, okay? So ask another question if I need to give a follow-on to that. If I do not have my earplugs, I always leave. Well, Tanika, good. That's good. But ear noise, and a noise app is better than earplugs. Prolonged use of earplugs is not good because it can heighten your sensitivity to very subtle sounds. Okay. This is from Lisa. How does IPR work with a prolonged trigger like being in an office full of open typing? I'm not aware of an IPR, and I'm definitely not aware of holding something tense for long periods of time. So it just keeps pulsing over time. that muscle just kind of keeps pulsing and tensing, and it's part of the stimulus to your body. So with typing, it's really easy because you have your person, somebody that'll help you with it, go click, click, click. Nope, that didn't trigger me. Click, click, click. Oh, I felt something, but that wasn't really triggered. But where did you feel it? Click, 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 click. And then you just get it to where it's just barely starting to trigger you. And then you will be able, 80% probability at least, that you'll be able to identify where your initial physical reflex is. Okay, but the problem with misophonia, and the reason that so many people misunderstand misophonia that are researchers, is because the experience of having a misophonia trigger, a real life trigger, is overwhelmingly emotional explosion and physiological distress. That initial physical reflex doesn't show up. So it was only because I was up close and personal in dealing with very little triggers, doing some counter-conditioning events, exercises, that I was able to discover this, and I was lucky enough to have the right people. Okay, next question. Can't go for a walk with all the triggers. Okay, so if you can't go for a walk with all the triggers, what you want to do is use more noise and isolation and find how you can bring it down and smaller and smaller and smaller so that you get very, very weak triggers. Oh, Tanika, you're very welcome. Next question here from Denise. How do I keep from developing new triggers? Relax. This ability to relax on demand, and relax when you're tense. Relax when something is worrying you. Relax when you're hearing a new sound. But excluding, that anytime that you're tense about something and you're hearing a trigger, you're tense and you're hearing a sound and there's some connection to the sound, you're very likely to develop a trigger. I know one man who developed misophonia as a teenager. He had anxiety. He shared a room with his brother who had allergies, and he couldn't go to sleep. And after that one night, at the end, after a while, he went to the couch and went to sleep. And after that one night, every time he heard his brother breathe, it triggered him. So he developed misophonia in one night, but he didn't realize it at that night. All he realized at that night was that he was not liking his brother breathing and he was getting upset. So he went away. But then the next day, when he wasn't tense, he wasn't trying to go to sleep, all of a sudden he hears his brother breathe and his shoulders jumped. And he didn't necessarily report it at the time, but he was triggered. And that's where his reflex was in his shoulder. So Denise, avoid prolonged misophonia distress, do good management, and learn to relax. Relax, relax, relax. Remember, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you can learn to do it well. And relaxing around triggers is definitely that. Okay, so I'm getting several thank yous through here. Do you have any suggestions or thoughts for dealing with misophonia and PTSD, specifically heightened startle response triggered by sudden sounds? I do not specifically have anything other than learning to relax, and doing the progressive muscle relaxation can maybe get you sleeping better, can maybe help you be in a more state of relaxed state, which could potentially help you with the startle. I worked with one woman who was very skittish, easy to startle, and her reflex was a gasp for breath. And so when she would have a trigger, she would, her muscles jump, and then she'd go, ah, and it would scare her. So I do not have any specific knowledge in that area. I have another one here. My trigger is sibilance, mainly high-pitched female voices. Is this something you've treated? Yes, it depends on where your reflex is. And it's difficult because of the pervasiveness there. That is one reason that the extra voices are available on the Misophonia Muscle Relaxation Training app, because female voices, which most of your PMR audios are, typically trigger people that have a sibilance problem, sibilance trigger. How about visual triggers? If I see someone chewing, yeah, visual triggers the same way. So unfortunately, with a visual trigger, you can't use the noise, right? So, but you have blasters. I mean, you can't close your ears, but you can close your eyes. And the same thing applies of being very relaxed, very positive situation, little triggers. I'm not saying it's easy, guys. I'm not, okay? But I'm saying is that things can work this way. Again, Kenton, you're welcome. Several other thank yous. Why do some people develop misophonia and others don't? Like one child in a family reacts to a specific sound and others don't. Well, it's experiential, right? Some children are a little bit more aware. I'll give you a real story that this little girl was very sensitive, and father may have had misophonia, would gripe at her brother for smacking his lips, eating sounds, you know, and so she hears him smack. Dad goes, "Stop that, chew with your mouth closed." Well, every time Dad said, "Stop that," she kind of goes, right, "Stop that." And so then at breakfast, she hears him chewing, smacking. It's like, ah, and then it's a trigger. So sensitive children tend to develop it more often than strong-willed children. I don't know, maybe it's 1/3, 2/3, or 25%, 75%, and then maybe even more sensitive. And then the other thing is that people are just in a situation. Had that one boy not had anxiety and shared a room with his brother that night, he would not have developed, at least at that time, a trigger there. One man had little baby birds build a nest outside of his window. Well, they were mature birds, obviously, right? And so isn't that so cute? Bedroom window, little bird nest right outside your window. The only problem was that they were mockingbirds. And the male mockingbird chirps 24 hours a day at certain times of the year. Now, had he heard those birds going and gotten out there and knocked the nest down, he would have never developed misophonia. But he developed misophonia to mockingbird chirps, which has then spread to other bird chirps, and it's just slowly grown. Anyway, so certain people are more responsive, likely to respond. Other people are more laid back and relaxed, and so they're less likely to respond. So there is a genetic component to this, but it takes the experience to develop it. Can you please send out an email list of all the apps you've created? Okay, I'll put that in it, but basically you've seen the apps except for, oh, Android. Android, there's a visual trigger tamer app for Android. Is the muscle tensing a defense, fight, response? No. The muscle tensing is strictly a reflex that the lizard brain has seen. It heard a sound, it saw this muscle react, sound, react, sound, react, sound, react. Oh, I'll do it. Sound, react. It's simply a reflex. Misophonia it's not like there's a fight or flight response that's starting with this. This is unrelated. There was a man who developed misophonia as a Marine in Afghanistan. So after going out on patrol, you're all tense, you get stuffed into this little air-conditioned barracks and you're eating on your bunk, so there's a guy beside you. And when he heard somebody chew, his head would flinch to the right and his shoulder would take a punch. Get strong, muscles would tighten like he's going to take a punch. And if he heard it on the right side, it was, if you heard it on the left side, because we tested this, it was the same reflex. It was strictly a learned reflex. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for the questions and participating. I would love to get any feedback on the app. Please be nice as we're working out all the last bugs. and I will send out information. So thank you very much.